Here's the pump that I'm going to use. Quarter horsepower submersible pump. This is a rigid one. I got this at Home Depot a long time ago. Works great. The other thing I like to do with it is I put it in a 5-gallon bucket before I throw it in the pool. And then I'll show you something else I'm going to try this year. So what usually happens is the cover is full of leaves and dirt and trash, and by the time you get down to the end of pumping the water off of the cover, the pump constantly gets clogged because this little intake down here sucks in all of the leaves and dirt that's in the pool. So what I'm going to try and do this year is I have this old leaf net, dip net, whatever it is, from one of these nets that ripped last year. So I'm going to put the pump in this net bag, tie this around it to act as like a filter and keep out all of the dirt that's going to try and come into the pump, and see how that works. So I'll get this zip tied on here. You can see I also have a string on here that I use to tie the pump to the handle on the 5-gallon bucket so that it doesn't float out after I throw it in the water. Alright, so just a couple more tips. Before you put the cover on, hook up the hose, because it's a lot easier to put the hose on when the cover is not on the bucket, because you have the freedom to spin the hose and the bucket lid all you want. Now the valve, this ball valve, has a nice little fitting here, which is supposed to turn independently of the valve, which it does. But you always want to just make sure that you have the most freedom to put it on. I also make sure that the lip of the bucket is very clean. You don't want any sand in there, because that will mess up your seal. The chlorine pills in here, so we'll put the lid on. Snap it on nice and tight. And I got the back of the bucket on a 2x4. See if I can get you down there to see that. This way, guys, it's definitely has positive drainage towards the hose. The other thing that I do, you can see the hose when it comes out of the top of the bucket. What will happen is over time the hose will get a little soft from all the water running through it, and especially if the sun comes out, it gets hot. So what I like to do is I like to try and support the hose vertically. So I'll drive a stake into the ground here in the back of the off of the pool deck, and I'll just zip tie this hose to the stake. Alright, so there's the hose, and it goes all the way down to the other end of the pools where I have the other bucket with the pump in it. So let me go throw that in the water and get this thing going. Alright, I'm at the other end of the pool now, just to get you oriented. Look how nasty that water is too. So now we're at the other end, and I'm going to throw in this bucket. Now I want the pump as far away from the filter as I can get it. That way the water has to, I get as much water on the cover through the filter as possibly will go. Put this in. There you go. That's how I like it. It just sinks in. I'll take this pole and just shove it a little bit further down. Make sure it's right down there at the bottom. So that's on the cover. You can see here. Let me see. Alright, now watch how deep this is. I don't know, maybe 18 inches right there. So let's plug in the pump, and let's go down to the filter end again. Alright, just came on. You can see that this thing is spitting out a little bit of dirty water. That's just from all of the disturbance to the filter and everything that we did, but that'll clear right up as soon as everything gets settled in the bucket. And this is all going on the top of my pool cover anyway, so none of this water is actually, or none of that dirt is actually getting into the pool. The This looks good. I don't have any leaks out of the lid. I got the full pressure going because the ball valve is wide open. So now you see what the use of that ball valve is. This thing's like puffed up too. So what I can do is I can take this ball valve and I can actually turn it a little bit, you know, and control the flow. I'll just let it run wide open for now. And just to show you, let me get back on the end of this hose and I'll show you what the water looks like coming out now. The sand is all settled down. Sand doesn't come out of the filter. That's why you have to use pool filter sand. It all locks together like a rock. And just for fun, real quick, let me pull this out. Just water coming out. There's no sand, there's no dirt or anything coming out. So it's about 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. So I will just let this run. We'll look at the pool again. And I'm just going to let this thing run for a couple of days non-stop. And it'll turn this green water into crystal clear. You'll be able to see this pool cover in a couple of days. The only maintenance that I'll do on it is maybe Monday night I'll come out and I'll check the status of the chlorine pills that are in that bucket, because they dissolve, after you run water on it for almost 72 hours, and those things will shrink down to almost nothing. So we'll come out and check those in a couple of days and I'll show you the water. I'll give you updates on the water status over the course of the weekend. And I got you zoomed in, just something else to notice. There's no leakage at the outlet fitting on the filter. That plumber's putty, it works really well. The water would much rather just go out of that open pipe. And like I said before, when you pressurize this thing and you put that plumber's putty around the hole, the water actually has to push the putty into the hole in order to get out. So it self-seals that opening. So it never leaks out of that thing. Like I said, the weak point in the past has been the cover connection. And this one I'm really pleased. I don't see any leakage coming out of that one at all. Of course, it's only been running for a minute. All right, so here it is at the start. Around 4:15 now, Saturday afternoon. So I got the set. Here's the setup. On the right end, closest to the camera, is where we have the submersible pump in a 5-gallon bucket. And you can see the green garden hose coming out of it. That runs down to the other end of the pool, where I have the blue bucket sand filter. The hose going into it. The water that comes out of the sand filter right now is just going right back on top of the cover, and so it's just going to circulate from one end of the pool to the other, and we're going to run it that way until this water turns crystal clear. It's green and dirty right now, but I promise you, in 2 days this water will look like swimming pool water, or water that came out of your tap. So we'll check back on it periodically over the weekend and see how it's doing.